Well, so many things, John, can affect it. Dynamics, for example, is one measure. If music is very loud and very powerful and very extrovert, it can produce one kind of result, one kind of feeling in an audience. If it's very tender and quiet and lacy and lovely, it can have another effect. And it's a very complicated process and a very subtle one. But in broad strokes, these are the kinds of things that one can do to affect an audience and enhance a film. We go through there's a broad coloristic palette in the orchestra itself, in the effect of strings, for example, the effect of brass, and the effect of military drums in the scene. I mean, there's a huge reservoir of palette of colors and effects that we use that are part of our Western inheritance. I like to see film, John. You know, any of your viewers will know that if you read a novel first and then go see a movie version of the novel, that the novel doesn't conform to your own visualization of what you've read. The characters won't look like you imagined, or the place won't look like you imagined. And there's always a kind of tinge of disappointment when you read something. What I prefer, if I can, not to read a script and just walk into a darkened room, see a film, and react to those people, that place, the experience of this film, that particular 2 hours in time. That gives me the tempo, it gives me the feeling and the mood, and that's the best direct line to the kind of impression that I need. I've been very lucky in my career, John, to have scored some very strong, very powerful emotional films. Born on the 4th of July is an example. When I looked at that film, I nearly wept a couple of times. I mean, the experience is so powerful. And being of an age that I've lived through those decades, I don't know how old you are, but as a history lesson of what the country's come through and what we've lost in innocence and what we've gained in wisdom and all these things that one feels when you see a film like Born on the 4th of July. Then you go into a room to compose the music. I mean, that emotion is with you. It's in your gut. And it's something real. It's something that you feel. And unless a composer feels that, unless a director feels it's something that's deeply felt, anyone that's worked in the theater, as you know, in television, if you don't feel something strongly, the audience is not going to. It's always a hard question to answer. You know, it's like saying, which of your children, and I have 3, which is your favorite? Tough to do. But I not just because it's current, Born on the 4th of July, I love. I think it's an important, fabulous film. A further answer to your question, since you pressed me, Close Encounters of a Third Kind, Spielberg, fantastic movie, I think. Not just celluloid, it's alive. Just the way Born on the 4th of July is live history. I mean, it's really more than just a movie, I think. Well, I've already mentioned it. Close Encounters, I think, was the most difficult. Just the process of finding the notes and the process of getting where I wanted to go. The arrival of the mothership at the end of the film, and all that's musicalized. I don't know how many of your viewers are going to remember that, but that was a very difficult film for me to write. Born on the 4th of July was not, I think I mentioned to you, was not hard because its emotional impact went so right to the gut that I found my equilibrium there. I found my emotional line very easily. But there's great variation in this thing, John. You know, these films are all very different experiences, and the variation is also in my experience, and that of my colleagues. I'm sure I speak for them. That every case is different. It's like every book's different. I'm in Boston about 3 months a year, and I do, I don't know, I guess about 40 to 50 concerts a year there, which is a lot. But the other 8 or 9 months a year, I work as a composer, principally in Hollywood and films. And I find that one activity is a kind of source of nourishment for the other. Hollywood is people think it's glamorous. For me, it's a very quiet life. It's almost like a monk's work. I work in a quiet room with a studio where the public isn't allowed to go, and I go to Boston and I conduct where the public is invited. And it's a very public, very externalized, extrovert kind of environment. And the one thing is such a contrast to the other that I think in my case it's been an invigoration. Well, there's good and bad at every level in music. There's bad pop music and good pop music and highbrow music, some wonderful, some not so good. I think that to say that there's good everywhere is right, and people bring their own experience and their own education and their own opportunities to what they have to hear. I would hope for everyone that they have the opportunity to get to know Beethoven in the way that we would like to get to know Shakespeare or Goethe or whatever. But you take the level that you're prepared for, and as in all things, education is the key. The more we know about it, the more we listen, the more people explain to us what it is, the history of it, the value of it, and so on, the greater our joy is in all these things. So I don't think it needs to be highbrow. I think it speaks more to where you are, where the individual is in his or her own particular development. Well, if I go far enough back in my career, John, the answer is no. I never would have expected I'd be composing these scores for these Hollywood films at the age of, let's say, 18 or 20. But in my early 20s, I was a piano student out here at UCLA and in New York and Juilliard, and as a youngster, pretty good pianist. First job I had in Hollywood was playing in a motion picture orchestra. They had studio contract orchestras in the 1950s. And I saw how music was put to film by older colleagues, and I began to get the idea, with the usual temerity of youth, I could also do that. And the seeds of my own ambition to do it were planted relatively late in life. I mean, I was in my middle 20s before I even knew what it was about. But I had the opportunity because I was playing in the orchestra. I was lucky. I hope I'll still be working in films and maybe also talking to you about another movie. Okay. You're welcome. Thank you.